Hi, this is Sarah Ockwell-Smith. So I'm here to talk with you today about bedtime routines, why they're so important and why they can help children to sleep, not just to fall asleep initially, but to stay asleep for the whole night too. So I find that lots of parents are scared about the word routine. They seem to think routine is something that belongs in the domain of the baby expert or the parenting expert who has perhaps a more authoritarian and more mainstream way of doing things. They seem to think routines tell parents what time they should get up in the morning, what time they should have a cup of tea, what time they should eat lunch, and so on. But actually it really doesn't have to be like that. I like to think of a routine more of being something that you do in a certain order, in a certain way that's repeated every day. So when it comes to a routine for bedtime, I think it's really important to understand that actually we have bedtime routines as adults. So as an adult, your bedtime routine might be, you might watch the news at 10 o'clock, then after the news is finished you might go to make yourself a drink. Then you might take the drink upstairs, pop it down on your bedside table whilst you go and brush your teeth, have a wash and get changed into your pyjamas. Then you might come back to your room, shake up your pillow a little bit, pop your bedside light on, pick your book up and read your book until you're sleepy. That's a bedtime routine. And the thing is if as adults we have a bedtime routine, but we don't necessarily have them for children, it doesn't make any sense. What research has shown us is actually that a bedtime routine not only helps children to fall asleep more easily initially, but it actually helps them to sleep for longer overnight. And I think they're absolutely vital for any age. The thing is, it's not just about what sort of time you do things. I mean, actually the time is far less important. It's about giving the child a sense of predictability, and that predictability helps them to feel safe, it helps them to feel secure, and that's the predictability that helps them to sleep better initially and also during the night too. So what does a good bedtime routine look like? Well, here's the thing, actually it starts before you do the bedtime routine. It starts with what I call a wind down routine, which happens after dinner. Now again, it's quite ironic. If you look at adults, what you'll tend to find is they'll have their dinner, then maybe they'll go sit down on the sofa, or they'll go for a walk, read a book, watch some television. They won't have dinner and then go straight to bed. But with babies and toddlers, we kind of expect them to eat dinner and then it's a big rush through having a bath and getting to bed, all within sort of an hour of having dinner. That doesn't work. That doesn't work for us. Imagine if somebody said to you, have your dinner right now. Sarah, it's time to go to bed. You'd be like, well, hey, I don't want to go to bed right now. I'd like to let my dinner digest and have some time chilling out first. Well, it really is no different for our children as well. They need time to relax and to unwind and to digest their dinner. So what you're aiming for between dinner and bedtime, between the bedtime routine starting, is to have time for a wind down. So somewhere between half an hour or an hour is a really good time. Lots of people say, well, Sarah, what do I do for my bedtime routine? Well, for the bedtime routine, for the wind down routine, I'd be looking at firstly reducing electronics and screen time to an absolute minimum, preferably at all. And also things like roughhousing or, running around playing. That's great, but not near bedtime. Keep that for earlier in the evening. So a wind down routine for me would be something like playing puzzles, reading books, playing Play-Doh, playing shape sorters, having a sing-song, that sort of thing. For half an hour to an hour. Now this is really important if the child's in daycare, or also if there are other siblings around. They really need some time to feel reconnected with you, because if they don't reconnect then they're going to want to reconnect during the night, and what you'll see is more frequent night waking. So after you've done the bedtime routine, after you've done the wind down routine, sorry, I keep saying bedtime, it's time to begin the bedtime routine. I think a really great way to start a bedtime routine all of the time is with a bath. I'm not going to go into that now because I have another video about how to do a great bath and why they're so important. But a bath is a great way because it really marks the start of bedtime. Just before the bath though, I'd nip into the bedroom you want your child to sleep in and get that prepared. So look at things like the lighting, the scent, the music, any objects that you need out, and make sure that's ready. So it's really important to prepare the room that they're going to sleep in. And it's really important that you do the bedtime routine in the room that they're going to sleep in. Lots of parents perhaps who co-sleep will get the child ready in their nursery and they'll say something like, well, I want them to get used to their nursery, so I do the bedtime routine in there. But that's really not the best way to do things. The best way would be to do all of the routine in the room that you want the child to sleep in. So if they're sleeping in your room, then the only place you go after the bathroom is into your room. If they're sleeping in their own room, then you do the routine in their room. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to prepare the room, because when the child comes out of the bath, we're going to go straight into the room that they sleep in. We're definitely not going to go back downstairs and say goodnight to anything or to have another little play. Once they've had their bath, the bedtime routine has begun. They only go in the room that they're going to sleep in. So once you come out of the bath, you go straight into the room that you've already prepared. And the first thing that I would do here is to give them a massage. Now, a massage is a great way to get some skin-to-skin contact and some oxytocin and to calm down for sleep. Lots of parents, though, think I mean something like a proper baby or infant massage with the baby laying down, cooing, looking into your eyes. And it's just not like that when you have older babies and toddlers. They don't like to keep still. They're really not into that. So what you're looking for instead is to think of it like rubbing lotion into their body. So you get some oil or whatever it is you're using, and then you're just rubbing it into them. If you can make it last for 30 seconds or 60 seconds, that's great. They can sit upright on your lap when you do it. They can stand up. It's just about the skin to skin contact, really. Then after that, you're going to get them dressed into whatever it is that they're wearing, and perhaps if they're wearing a sleeping bag or something. Then the next step is to think about a bedtime story. Now, bedtime stories are really, really important. They really help children to connect. It really helps with their speech and their language and their own reading skills. But what is important to understand here is that firstly, it should be a calm book. So no squeaky books, no sound effects or anything. And it should be one book. Why should it be one book? Because if you introduce more, then you're making it far more active and more likely to wake them. It's more like playtime. So you have one book that is your bedtime book, and it is one book for certainly the next few months, if not years. And the reason why you're doing that is, again, to give them some predictability. If they know that bedtime routine starts with a bath and it ends with a certain book, that again helps them to feel safe and secure. They know what's coming next in the story. It's a really great way to introduce some predictability into their life. So the same book every night, really just one book. I like to use books that are about sleep, that are rhythmical, that are rhyming, and that are fairly short. My best tip for a good bedtime book would be by a lady called Margaret Wise Brown. She writes a book called Goodnight Moon, which is perhaps the most popular one, but I also like one called Sleep Little Angel. So reading the story to them, and whilst you're reading, particularly if you have a younger baby or a toddler who's breastfed, that's fine that you can feed during the routine. They can sit on your lap, you can cuddle them. And the really important thing is here, you can get them to sleep however they need you to get them to sleep. It's fine to feed to sleep. It's fine to cuddle to sleep. It's fine to rock to sleep. It really doesn't cause a problem. What is important is that whole routine beforehand is the same. Once they're asleep, pop them down or roll away from them. And importantly, if you're using scent or music and lighting, you're going to leave that on once you've left the room. And it really is as simple as that. But the most important thing is it's exactly the same every single night. The timings can be a bit out. I'd say aim for half an hour either way. You know, it's not particularly great being wholly child-led in a bedtime routine, because what you'll find is, particularly with toddlers, the world is too exciting, their games are too exciting, they don't want to go to bed emotionally, although physically they might need to. What happens when they override this bedtime then is their bodies will secrete cortisol to wake them up a bit, and you'll end up with that really highly strung, wound Duracell bunny type toddler who is actually grossly overtired, but their physiology is now preventing them from sleeping. So being slightly less child-led for a bedtime, child-led in terms of your understanding what's normal for that age, particularly with what's happening with melatonin release, but you're not each day letting them pick bedtime. Aiming for sort of half an hour either side of the same bedtime every day, but the bedtime routine must be exactly the same, completely consistent every day. So the great thing about this is it doesn't matter necessarily after a while who's doing it, because it's all about the consistency. So if you have to go away and somebody else is doing bedtime for a while, then it helps the child to feel that sense of consistency because the same things are being done. You can also do a mini routine for naps as well, which is great if the child's in daycare. So my very last question about routines is, what age should I introduce them? That's quite a common one I get asked. And my usual response to that is, well, actually, it's never too soon. What I would suggest actually is in the newborn period that I would just kind of go with the flow. Newborns and circadian rhythms really aren't developed enough to understand good routines, it's really all about meeting their needs and just doing whatever you need to do to keep them and yourself calm. But from about 12 to 14 weeks, I think that's a great time to introduce a bedtime routine. You won't see results from it immediately. It might take till sort of 6 to 9 months plus till your baby really starts to get used to the routine. But certainly from 12 weeks on, it's a really great time to start a bedtime routine. But similarly, if you have a 2 or a 3-year-old and you haven't ever done one, it's never too late. You can start at any age. When should you see outcomes from it? I would say give it at least a month, maybe 2 months, and then hopefully, as I said, research has shown that it really can help sleep, not just to fall asleep initially, but to help them to stay asleep. So good luck with getting a bedtime routine.